All right. Greetings, everybody. Welcome back from break. Chef Greg, everybody out in the classroom and the wild world web, tapping into us from wherever. How's everybody feeling? Rested after break? Did anybody cook anything awesome? No, we've got some no's, got some yeses. All right, well, good. We are here now in Farm to Table. I know some of you briefly from CA101 with chefs Carla and Genevieve, and I'm sure some of you have met the wonderful Chef Greg. Am I correct?
Yep, couple.
All right.
Couple along the road.
Okay, cool. Well, just to kick things off, guys, remember that Chef Greg and I are here. So communication is key to being successful in whether it's a restaurant or educational or setting. So if you got something going on, anything comes up, please don't hesitate to reach out because that way we can help. And on to other great things. You guys are approaching externship. All right, that is right around the corner. So start getting those wheels turning about where you want to go, what do you want to do, reaching out to your career services representative to get that going. We'll have Chef Gina and Chef Stephen coming in at some point, and they will answer questions for you all about that. But if you have some pressing questions right now, get those to your career services representative about externship to get that ball going if you have any questions about that. All right, let's see, what else? We're just covering over all the basics before we dive into the good stuff, right, guys? Week 5, all makeup assignments. Hopefully you don't have to take advantage of any of those. Those are due then. No exceptions, that's it, right? I would suggest if you miss week 1, get it in by week 2, right? Don't play the catch-up game because it's crunch time. You literally have a month and a half, guys, before you're on externship. And then you guys are out of here, right? I mean, unbelievable, okay? So just get pumped, get excited. This class is gonna be a little bit different. Chef Greg and I talked to you about the wide world that has extended the restaurant industry to such varying degrees. It's quite impressive, okay? The title of the course, obviously, Farm to Table. We're gonna be talking about what it takes vegetables to get to your back store at the restaurant to picked up, prepped, and onto the table. How does it get there? What does it take environmentally to get those products here? How far does our food travel? Anybody have an idea, a guesstimate on average, how far our food travels to us?
Globally.
Well, globally, yes, 100%, totally.
Not only how far it travels, but how many hands does it go through?
There you go. Great point as well.
And how long is it stored before it is shipped?
Exactly. Wonderful.
Apples make me crazy.
We will get into controlled atmosphere. Controlled atmosphere is how a lot of, you guys, did you ever think about okay, so Mandy's talking about apples, right? How do we have apples year round when we know apples are fall, right? So let's start thinking about those seasons. What happens in fall? We've got apples and pumpkins, right? Seasons. Okay, so how do those apples survive year round?
We ship them from other places.
Sure, we ship them from other places, of course, but how do you
Flash freeze.
Cold storage, yes, right? So controlled atmosphere, cold storage, it allows vegetables and fruits such as apples, or think about onions and so many other vegetables that are stored in cold atmosphere controlled, meaning oxygen has been removed, right? So it can halt the maturation, right, of the fruits and vegetables. What you guys will start to realize is that cooking is a lot more scientific and strange and connected than you might have ever thought. To the world, to what goes on, to how we feed our nations through agriculture, right? These are really important things. So you'll start to learn about storage. If you wanted a fresh apple, are you going to get a really fresh apple in spring? It's been sitting in that cold storage for X amount of months. So is other vegetables and fruit. But hey, guess what? Does that allow us to have apples year round? Who likes having apples year round? I do. Seasonality has become so vastly different than what we think of what the real seasons are. Because now we can get everything, almost everything, at the grocery stores year round. Tomatoes. What do tomatoes taste like in the winter for anybody? What do you guys say? Yeah, I got some thumbs down. Nasty. What are they missing? What don't they have?
The sweetness.
Freshness.
Okay.
Flavor.
Flavor. What
They
else?
just taste old.
Taste old. Okay.
They taste old, and it's not the taste, it's the texture.
Yeah. What is it like?
They're more
Kind of
bitter.
mushy.
Mushy, right? It's slightly mealy. Okay.
Yeah, like they're made of a sugar paste.
Okay. Like made of sugar.
Wax paper. They're not right.
Okay, and they're not right. Okay, so now we heard all of these things that we don't really like about a tomato in the winter, right? So now, what does a tomato have? I didn't hear one thing though. I was waiting for color, but what do tomatoes have in the summer?
They're more red, a deep red, a juicy, deep, sweet red.
Yes, definitely different colors. What else? What else is going on?
The sun.
The sun. Okay, yeah, how they're growing. Exactly. So
They're robust. They've got meat to them. See?
there we go. Right. So now we're talking about seasons, right? Okay. If you're a restaurant and you want to have, you guys, somebody give me an ingredient where tomatoes, a meal, a dish that's really highlighted by tomatoes.
Gazpacho.
Gazpacho. Okay. Gazpacho, great answer, right? Lots of tomatoes, peppers, summer harvests are in there. Now, if you want to have gazpacho on your menu year round, how do you ensure that your gazpacho in winter tastes just as wonderful as that gazpacho in summer? Can you?
It
Can it?
doesn't.
Preserves.
Yeah, can it?
So we're talking about preservation method. If you want, we could get into that. We will, don't worry. But a preserved item doesn't taste exactly like it, but if you harvest at the season, right, it could. But we're getting away from the point. What I'm saying is, if you think about what you want to put on a menu year round, how do you have supply? How do you have control? How does the seasons, right? How do the seasons affect your menu, your costs? Because a tomato in winter is a lot more expensive than a tomato in the summer, right? So you're paying more for a lesser product. Because why? Harvest. So there's tons of tomatoes. Tomatoes are just flying out of everywhere. But again, how do you set those standards in a restaurant?
Depends on where it's shipping from. I mean, you can seasonally go around the globe and start asking, stateside. I mean, East Coast, West Coast. So depending on where you're shipping from.
Exactly. So then let's talk about that, right? So now we're at this point where, hey, actually, I can get super high quality, wonderful tomatoes year round, depending upon where I source it from. And they're going to be pretty dang good. They might have traveled a bit, so it's not that peak of freshness, but they're really good. What do we think that does to your price?
Make the food costs go up.
Yes. And what about how much energy, right, it takes just to get that tomato all the way there? Where did it ship from? From China? Halfway around the globe?
And what's on it?
And
Because
what's
if it's
on it?
from another country, they don't have the same kind of pesticide regulations, herbicide regulations. What is on it? Ugh.
Yeah, that's correct. You'll find out that in regards to pesticides and regulations, this is an important topic as well that we'll get into in the class. But remember, some countries we might think have great regulations, others not as good, right? But until you start actually doing some research on it, right? Valid research, which is the key that Chef Greg and I want to get into, right? Research is crucial when we're studying about food agriculture, okay? You cannot just take one answer, one viewpoint. You need to read both sides of the story, because we'll get into GMOs. Who here thinks GMOs are good?
I think they're okay as long as they're regulated.
Okay, as long as they're regulated. Who thinks they're bad?
I think they are great for underdeveloped or third world countries where food source is an actual issue, but people generating corn in Kentucky, where I'm from, corn's grown there for 300 years. It didn't need any help there. And for it to have a GMO there is useless. In a starving country in Africa, great. GMO the heck out of that, feed some people.
Yeah, Mandy, you bring up some great points there. Yeah, you're right. Let's go directly to what you just said though, Mandy. Kentucky, corn grows here. Let's think about, let's just take one step back to your guys' cuisines of the world class, right? Where does corn originate from? You guys remember?
South America.
There we go, right?
South America.
South America, North America, the Americas grew corn, right? We think about Native Americans in the United States as well. They had a lot of corn as well, right? There was corn growing. So the conditions were right for growing corn. But when the conditions are not right, as Mandy said, perhaps in Africa, to grow corn, which is a staple of a diet, you need to modify it. So creating drought-resistant corn enabled farmers in Africa to actually grow corn, provide food for their family, as well as bring business into an economy into their community. I would take that as a plus. Why were GMOs first even created? There was vitamin A deficiency. It started with golden rice. All right, we're going to get more into this later, but guess what? That vitamin A deficiency can cause blindness in children. By creating a rice that had vitamin A added to it, helped reverse this. And now there is little to no blindness for children with a vitamin A deficiency. I would say that that's really powerful and a wonderful thing that GMOs can do. So I also will go on a whole other tangent Chef Greg knows about why I can say GMOs are bad. You got to look at both sides and make decisions based on what you want and the research you've done. Chef Greg, don't you agree that that's the most important thing?
Agreed. Yeah. Especially when you guys are all going into externship, you're all going to be executive chefs, food and beverage directors, owners. You'll be the one purchasing the food, and you'll know what people are eating, and what lengths are you willing to go to get something that's all natural, or what are you willing to do to serve something that's fully processed? That's something that you guys honestly you have to make that decision for yourself. It has to be a business decision, and it has to be a ethical decision, and it has to be your decision at the end of the day. So
100%.
My main problem with GMOs is somebody owning a seed. That's my problem with it. I honestly do not believe that any one person or entity should have exclusive ownership rights to the DNA of a seed. Biological entity. And so that's my main concern.
I totally understand that. And everybody has the right to their own opinion. I'm sure there are plenty of people who would say, I disagree. We will get into all of that though. All right. But GMOs actually are pretty quickly linked to the topic that we're going to talk about. In some ways, it's all connected, right? But this week. So before we continue on, I just want to pull up the class page so we can just get a grip on what are we looking at and where we're going to go throughout this class. And then we're going to dive into week one's research. Sorry, guys. It was, I don't know about you all, but I tried to ride my summer break till the end. Did anybody else try? Because I did. Just being honest, right? Summer break is awesome, and I hope everybody had a good time. Seriously, that it was just nice and refreshing. And you got to whatever made money working, or just was able to relax a little bit. All right. All right. So here we go. Week 1, here we are. Let's roll into it. Here are your weekly readings every week. Pretty basic, straightforward. They're going to be articles. I might slip in a few more during the weeks that relate to important things and topics that we're discussing. But as you can see in this one, week 1, it's all about farm-to-table restaurants and what they really mean. We're going to talk about it more, but be sure to read these, okay? You'll see, importantly here, farm-to-fable. Again, that opposite, that opposing side of farm-to-table versus not, right? Of GMO versus not GMO. All of these things. Yeah, I see your hand is up. I can't see your name.
Don, Chef.
Don.
Yeah. Am I muted? Hello? Hello?
I can
I can hear you.
Okay,
Now
now
you're muted, Don.
yourself. You flipped it on us. All right, do you want to just put that in the chat then, I guess?
Okay, here we go. I got it.
Okay.
Yay, genius. The farm to table Tampa Bay that you had there, that link did not open at all.
Oh.
Everything else opened, but that didn't.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Well, I'm glad that you let me know about that. Perfect. I will get that up to date right now. Actually, I'm just going to show you guys this really quickly because it is part of a series. So if you want to get excited about reading a unique article that was based on this whole theory of, okay, we're going to get it, you guys, this concept of farm to table is so wild, okay? It hits so many aspects because we're going to talk about in this week specifically, what does qualify as a farm to table restaurant? What does that really mean? Didn't all fruit and come from a farm and end up on a table? What can a menu do? Is there truth in advertising? So this woman did an entire investigation. So I believe that there are 6 articles in total. You can choose to read all 6, but the first one is the major one. And yeah, it's we've got a 7 parts. So 7 parts to this. I'm going to put the one that I think is most important. And if you get excited about it, continue to read because it's very interesting about what menus are putting on their, what restaurants are putting on their menus, right? Because we think about this. When you, I'm just going to click back, stop share for a second. When you think about what price points you can put for a farm-to-table restaurant, right? Would you pay more if you knew something was grass-fed or pasture-raised or from locally? Would you pay more? Yeah, right? Would you expect it to taste better and want it to taste better and hope that it did?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So, wouldn't you want to put items that can cost more on your menu? Then maybe you can make a little more profit? But what if now you're not getting that chicken from that farm that you said wrote on the menu that was pasture raised? Shocker. Whoa, right? That's the reality. We're going to talk about marketing later as well. We're going to talk about eggs. We're going to start getting your minds excited about what do labels mean? Look at, next time you go to the grocery store, guys, look at all of your eggs. That's what I would like to do. Because we're going to talk about something later on in this course about eggs. Just start looking at the labels. Look at labels in the grocery store. What are you buying? What does it say? What is the verbiage, right? Antibiotic-free, hormone-free, cage-free, grass-fed. What's, all right? What do all those mean, right?
Chef,
Yes.
whenever I'm at the store and I'm reading labels, if I can't pronunciate the word, then I pretty much know that it's, not good for you.
Yeah, I think that is a great angle to take. Perfectly acceptable. And more people should be aware of what we're putting in their body. But, again, counterbalance, side balance. Without putting these preservatives, we'd have people that were going without food, right? Constantly stuck in the fight. So anyways, let's hop back into, I just was talking about Farm to Fable. I'll put the correct link up. Thank you for bringing that to my attention, Don. And let's get back into this week. Let's see, was that the wrong one? I am all over the place right now. Sorry.
What do you want to bring up, Chef? I have it.
Oh, just the class page, but I've got like way too many links open right now.
Okay.
Sorry, class. So we are going to talk about what does it actually mean to be a farm-to-table restaurant. Does anybody think that there are any specific regulations on it? Well, the answer is no. There are no regulations on what technically a farm-to-table restaurant means. So, when we think about...
Here you go, Chef.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So, yeah, I'm gonna, well, let me just, sorry. I'm just trying to figure out. All right, because I'm gonna need to click around, so I'll just pull it up. Sorry.
Of course.
All right. So, man. All right. So, when we get into this week, you're going to see that there are all of these restaurants that we have listed here. Okay. This is four very different types of farm-to-table restaurants. Blue Hill, for example. This place is located in New York, and it is unreal as to how they're producing food. Has anybody heard of Blue Hill? Nope. A few? All right. Well, what do we think that a menu costs at Blue Hill? Farm to table. Like, truest in the sense, farm to table, they're growing everything right there. They are collecting from neighboring farms. If they're not growing it, they're grinding their flour on premise. Do you see this? Right? This is a true, I mean, unreal. Okay? Their menu is constantly changing. Okay? Because why? Does anybody know why?
Different
Seasonal.
things.
Seasonal. Yeah. What about more than seasonal?
Would you say trending?
All up there, right? I mean, you can't get things in New York City or New York that you can get even in Pennsylvania or Virginia or Georgia or where I'm at in Texas.
Great point. Excellent. Yes. So, what is actually available? Not just seasonally, but what is available in that area. So let's start thinking about things, all right? Do lemons grow in New York?
No, I don't believe so.
Great answer. Yeah, unless you're growing in a hothouse somewhere or something, right? So if I wanted to use lemon, look at this dish. Ooh, I could see snap peas, rhubarb, strawberries, and curry. Oh, that some lemon could be useful. We know how acid plays, right, in dishes, right? So what would you have to do if you wanted to be totally farm to table, but not use lemon? What would you substitute?
You might have a greenhouse and grow your own.
Okay, possibly. But realistically, if you want to like use, you know, a lot of lemon up there, what would be another alternative, a substitute?
A lemongrass?
Lemongrass. I like that. I like that angle. But remember, think about what does lemon add to your dish? Lemon juice.
Citrus.
Citrus.
Yes. Okay. You got it. Who said it? I heard it. Substitute vinegar. Yeah. Now, why don't you go one step farther? Wouldn't you want to substitute probably an apple cider vinegar, right? Because apples are growing in New York. Okay, we can do this. I can get that acid.
Yes.
But what if you think about now, what else does it take to get to create some of these dishes, right? You need flour, you need sugar, you need salt. Where are you getting all of these other ingredients? Are they all possible to come directly from a 50-mile radius?
So, Chef,
Grocery store?
A grocery store.
what does it take? I mean, is there a general rule that says, it's got to be 80% from the farm, or are we talking 100%? Because I mean, that's, to me, like I live in Ohio, so with the season we've had, if I was doing farm to table, which I know some people are having this problem, what good is 4 tomatoes going to do me? It's just the weather that we've had has been terrible.
Yes, a totally agree and valid point, right? So that's what we were saying. There is no specific regulation first on your percentage, right? But it is really about what amount, if any, you're getting locally, right? So if you know you can get your, during your season, right, something locally. The reality is, guys, every establishment is not going to source locally because the price is way too high. Unfortunately, it's very confusing because if you're going to go to like sorry, I'm blanking on my word right now.
Michelin.
No, well, yeah, a Michelin star, of course. Michelin star source. The quality and the integrity of those products are insane. You're also paying about $300 to $400 for a tasting meal. So this is not a common happening, right? How often are you going to pay $200, $300, $400, $500 for a meal? Maybe on a very, very special occasion.
Maybe twice in the last 10 years.
Well, good for you. That's awesome, right? So that's the thing. When we look at the general scope of what restaurants are trying to source local? Do you think these are fast food establishments? Are they casual establishments? What level? Where does farm to table fit in when we think about, as Gabriel was talking about, what quantity? So
I find that for farm to table, for me personally, I found it to be more like small, locally, like really small, like I said, really small restaurants, not chains, most definitely. That's what I found in my local area. It's like little tea houses that it's just catering to what is available there. Menu constantly changing, running into the thing that you might walk in an hour after they've opened and they've run out of something because, it's no longer available. That's what I've run into.
That is a perfect description. Yeah, that is exactly what can happen at a farm to table restaurant because you only have a certain supply, right? So you guys, again, there are varying levels. And if you look at some of those, the rest of the examples that are on the class page, North Pond Restaurant, Husk Restaurant, they have about 4 locations all over the Southeast. Then you've got the Mendocino Farms on the class page as well. And that is based out of California. And they're more of a sandwich company. But they all have this common thread of, we try to source locally. We work with our farmers in here. We get our bread from this bakery down the street, right? So now we start looking at farm to table and we start thinking, wait, is it more about a sustainability thing? What is sustainability? It's about, to be sustainable, you also need to have a community that is sustainable, right? So by supporting locally, you support your other businesses in your community and you help your economy in turn grow, right? These are all little things that are connected. The best thing ever is starting to learn and get to know a farmer in your area. Go to the farmers markets. You'll have different people who are either selling produce or actually growing it. Try and do it. It's summer right now, guys. You guys are at the best time to be exploring markets if you have them accessible to you. I know not everybody does, but make an adventure, try to get there, go see what's happening. It kind of changes everything. You'll see what's going on in the food world. Again, I want to go back to this huge, vast difference. You have small farmers supplying small little restaurants or a couple high-end restaurants in a big city and selling to a few farmers market. Maybe they're distributing in a couple states around. And then you have massive agricultural farms that are supplying huge portions of the nation with food and produce, okay? And restaurants. So do we see how this is just two very different ends of a pole? Farm to table and agriculture. It is vast, okay? And all degrees of restaurants are a wonderful thing to be a part of. And I think most importantly that what you'll see is even fast food chains, guys, which we would not associate with, right, this farm to table movement, they are highlighting, sourcing, where they're getting it. They're making changes in their menu. Has anybody noticed that? That the fast food and chain restaurants have started to make changes to their menus? We've got plant-based burgers. Plant-based burgers, guys. I'm going to send a link out to you later.
Beyond Meat.
Beyond Meat, yes, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, the Impossible Burger, Beyond Meat. Because we're looking at a time where we need to find solutions for what's happening in the earth in regards to sustainability. How many cows can we keep cranking out, right? It takes a lot of energy to raise a single cow. How much beef do we consume? How much chicken do we consume? How inexpensive is some of that chicken? How is it possible? Really have to, I mean, it's time to just start to have fun and start to think about the restaurants and what's going on beyond just cooking, because there's so much more that is incredible. All right, and you'll do it for yourselves. Taste something that somebody nearby grows compared to something that you buy conventionally. Eat in season and see how your taste buds change to understanding what fruit and vegetables in season taste like. Because without really knowing that, you're kind of missing a component. You got to try and seek it out. Grow some herbs in your backyard, whatever. That you can start that in an egg carton and some seeds, right? It'll change, right? These are our, as chefs, as cooks, right? There's the business side, but there's also the creative side. All of you are creative artists, right? It's called the culinary arts for a reason. We express ourselves, right? So essentially, the food you're using are your tools and your ingredients, your paint, right? Your chalk. So there are varying degrees of quality of supplies, right? And you should explore them all and then figure out what works best for you. Okay?
Chef Mandy has her hand up.
Yeah.
Yeah, my question was about sourcing. As far as I'm in a rural area. I have a little garden here at my house. I have a garden at my boyfriend's house. Those tomatoes I was waving in front of the camera earlier just actually came from my garden. And I didn't know how much of the farm to table movement is about sourcing from what you grow. Because some places it's about what they get from providers or from producers
compared to what people are growing in-house. Great question. So you'll find more than normal. People will have like a small garden, a rooftop, or an herb garden. That's kind of as close. That's like the biggest movement in that sector of growing your own. If you're not comparing yourself to a Blue Hill, which we just said, which is like a farm growing a huge amount and supplying multiple things, right? That's very different. But herb gardens are becoming more and more, frequent in the farm to table movement as a growing your own produce. There are some places that do a few things, but it's not on a huge scale. But there's a place called like the Herb Farm out in Washington. There are definitely places doing it. There are places out on the East Coast definitely do it, but it's really small scale. the Inn at Little Washington. Okay, you guys, has anybody heard of the Inn at Little Washington? Nope. Okay, let me just pull this up really quickly because I think you might find this interesting. They have an entire apprenticeship for their inn. Okay, so here we go. Share screen. Where are we? There we go. So this is, I think they're in Virginia or West Virginia, right outside of Washington. Virginia. Yeah. Okay. So they have, I'm trying to figure exactly where this out, but here is a sample menu. Okay. This obviously very high-end food, right? Beautiful, clean presentation, very upscale. But they have an entire apprenticeship of where they have their farms and they're growing their, look, check this out. Here we go. This looks exactly of the season, right? Radishes, snow peas. What's going on in the spring? What else is popping up in the spring, guys? All these wonderful spring, summer, right? Things are coming in. But the Inn at Little Washington, if you ever want to check it out, they have this great apprenticeship program, high end, and it is an American place that does great work. So there are places like that, but not on a grand scale. But you find more and more that the sourcing is important, highlighting where it comes from.
Now, do the regulations of where you source your produce, your meats, that kind of thing, are they varied by, is it all FDA or is it kind of state or county? Does it go more into the reason I ask is, like I said, I'm in a very regional area. I know ranchers. I can walk into a pasture and buy a cow. I can go and, well, I'm far enough from the valley that it's pretty much shipped in. I just go to HEB, but I have farmers in the area, I have ranchers in the area. And
so you want to know if you could source from them and serve at a restaurant?
Yes. What kind of regulations?
That would be very specific to the areas, but in terms of processing, you usually would have to go to a processor because of sanitary, FDA, USDA, right, regulations. Now, there are always these little weird loopholes, right, where maybe you get it, but if you're not serving it to the public, right, you would need you need traceability, transparency, right? You can't just what if that pig came from somewhere else and who knows or whatnot, right? There is a traceability. I would, Chef Greg, do you know any more on that subject?
Yeah, you have to be real careful because you'd be liable for what you're serving. And then they would be liable also. So if your insurance premium is $1 million and some guy's driving a pickup truck with a slaughtered pig and dropping it off, is his insurance $1 million?
Right.
Because you're liable and he's liable too. And then, if the health code will want to see all of your temp logs for when it was received, they want to see all of your purchasing. It definitely needs to be tracked. It can be done, of course, but there's a huge difference too between buying some herbs at a farmer's market and a half a side of beef. There's a huge difference.
Yeah, my main deal is I've grown my own tomatoes and squash and green beans and other things, and I'm honestly curious, is that something I need to spend my time doing if I'm not allowed to use mainly the produce? I've grown produce this year. I'm waiting, but yeah.
Produce is different than sale of meat, eggs. Think about fish, right? Think about back to CA102. Remember when reading about fish identification and what labels you have to put on oysters or anything? There's a date, there's a tracking number. there are probably places that get away with stuff, right? Just as we saw with the menu, when you read farm to table, that somebody's putting on their menu, this chicken came from this farm, and it's not. So we honestly don't have enough USDA personnel to be not only going in and checking up on every single restaurant, let alone slaughterhouses and farms and whatnot, right? Processing plants. We don't have the capacity to be doing hardcore investigations. So sure, could probably get some cheese, but if anything happened, anything, you are screwed, okay? You can't do it. You know what I mean? Right, Chef? I mean,
yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah. I would check into your state, your whatever regulations, but unless I had a clear green go ahead, I wouldn't mess with it, but you'd have to check. That's all I can say.
Thank you. So yeah, just going forward, I want to make sure that these people are certified, regulated.
You would have to make sure that their establishment had been, checked out.
So they are what they say they are.
Yes. So yeah, Andy, you're hitting on a lot of great topics that we've skimmed the topics that Chef Greg and I usually go into later on, even in the course. But yeah, so it's about knowing who your suppliers are at the end of the day. If you are sourcing from a farm or a farmer, where are you getting it from? Did you go to that location and check up on it? Do you trust no matter what, right? Oh, I'm growing it with X, Y, and Z. What are their living conditions? Interestingly enough, as I said, agriculture gets really weird when it starts to play in with restaurants, right, and service. Just recently this year, California passed another law regarding how egg-laying hens what their living conditions must be. So previously, when they changed one of the propositions about living conditions, making sure that the hen had enough room to turn around fully, right? A dozen eggs went from on par about 150 up to 350. Okay. Now with the new regulation that they've imposed, right, which is they must have a little nest and X, Y, or Z. I would have to reread the article. Basically, more tougher regulations. If you want to sell eggs in shell, liquid, or in product, right, into California, the eggs have to be, the hens have to have these conditions. That increases the price. So regulations, food, prices, these all affect your bottom line, right? Profitability, sustainability. If you can cut back on water reduction, great. If you can cut back electricity, awesome. Are you reducing? Are you reusing? What are your recyclable components that you're sending your to-go food home in? Are you using plastic bags? Are they decomposable? What about your utensils? What's the cost? What's the benefit? What's the gain, loss? These are all things that if you choose and want to have your own establishment, that you have to start thinking about. Are you going to have paper towels in the bathroom, or are you going to have an air dryer? Right? Yeah. So many things that it's what? There's a lot more to cooking and owning a restaurant than we know, especially with what's trending today and in the industry across the board. So it's a little bit of hippie, it's a little bit of business class. This is what Farm to Table is all about, okay, guys? Getting to the root of everything. Figuring out what the heck is going on. And where do you find yourself in the industry?
Chef, Donna's a hand up.
Yeah.
Yes. Can you hear me? Perfect. So to caveat what Mandy was saying and what you're saying, Chef Catherine, in reference to that, for the class assignment, I've already called 2 restaurants today, but they're very defensive, and because they don't want to answer questions when you're talking farm to table, because it's just a name. Oh, we're farm to table. What makes you farm to table? Well, who are you again? And it's why are you want to know, and why are you questioning me? And there goes the phone. So I've gone through 2 restaurants today, and so I don't know how we're going to answer that truthfully. Okay. So I called the Food and Drug Administration. First, I called Agricultural Department, and then because they deal with they can deal with farm to table, but they're actually dealing with the slaughterhouses and that nature. So then I went over to the Food and Drug Administration, and I'm waiting for them to call back just to see if there's something that they have that would say this is what we require across the board. And maybe each state and state law, federal law, two different things, but I'm finding a lot of defensiveness, even though, you know, you say you're a student and you're just doing this. Oh yeah, sure, you could be a student on the phone. Yeah, right, whatever, buddy. So I'm running into that, and I'm sure, I mean, maybe some others will do the same, but how do you want us to deal with that other than, I mean, moving on? Okay, we're not going to talk to them, but we're going to move on. But how do you want us to deal with that? Because my next step is to actually go there if I have time. But then again, I might get thrown out too. So who knows what will happen? I know, right, Mandy? She laughs because she knows she's done this probably. Hong Kong Fooey there.
I love your approach, and I think that is, and thank you for bringing that to the class's attention. If this all plays into why, if you were being honest and truthful in your menus, why would you be getting defensive? Why would you wonder why? You should be like, yeah, I get my farm from here, I get this from there, or maybe they're getting caught off guard, right? What is that percentage? So what we want you to do is actually, don't worry, you can keep calling, you can keep visiting. I support it, and let's keep this trail running. But all we really are asking for you to do is research on the internet. So first I'd like you to, what mostly happens out of a lot of these assignments is people get excited that they found something that is farm to table within their area that they may not have been aware of otherwise, right? So first you look in your town. If it's not in your town, check your county. If it's not in your county, check your region. If it's not find it in your state, okay? Find a farm to table restaurant, which can vary on the scale, right? Of sourced directly from the farm to, hey, we source X, Y, and Z locally. There are a few things that are going to be key indicators on the menu, right? Some might say a true farm to table restaurant, you want to go that way, is one that sources X amount of percentage and is open, not open every day of the week, only open for certain services because there's no way feasibly that they could ever provide all of that local farm to table on that high end level, 7 days a week, 3 meals a day, okay? So you would look at what are hours of our operation to really, if you wanted to go focus in more of a farm to table. They're gonna have shorter hours of operation generally. They're going to not be open every day for every service. I mean, there are a few things. They're gonna be key indicators on their menu, right? On the website, on their page saying, we source from this farm, from Slagle Farms. It's going to highlight that. Let me pull this up because I think by looking at Husk Restaurant, you all will get a better idea of what this could potentially look like.
I have an example too, Chef. I'd like to show after, just for a second.
Yeah, totally. So this is Husk Restaurant. So they have 4 locations. All right, Sean Brock, pretty cool, pretty dope chef, man. And if you click on one of these, you know, we've got, let's just check the Nashville, Tennessee, right? Today's menu. Happy hour if anybody's near. We've got like 10 minutes. All right. So today's menu. Our menu frequently changes with what the regions, producers provide daily. Okay. So remember, regional. Sourcing regionally is the probably most cost-effective and best diversified way you can go if you want to be a farm-to-table restaurant. You got to go local, right? Like regionally local. You're going to hit some jackpots there. Regionally local, all right? Think about that southeast corner, Georgia, right? Virginia, DC. If you hit that area, you could source a lot of great stuff, right? So this calls places out. They highlight who it is. Bear Creek Farm Beef Tartare, okay? Bear Creek Farm is the farm. Then you go in, you do a Google search for Bear Creek Farm. Right? And you find out, okay, this place actually is for real. It's legit. Bear Creek Farm, natural Angus beef, right? And we just know that, where the heck is the husk? Boom. Bear Creek Farm Beef Tartare. So I'm going to say they probably are, right? This is a great example of a really well-created farm to table that's realistic in the sense that it's sourcing regionally, right? Not like Blue Hill Farm, that other one where it's like just hardcore one farm, okay? So there are varying levels, and all are acceptable. You'll notice one important thing. Oh, Chef Greg, show your thing.
Oh, I was just going to show just real quick.
Yeah, totally.
Just a list. So like when you're looking at places, some of them will have like Chef saying they'll on the actual menu item, and then some of them will have like a list of just all the places that are around them. Sometimes though you see like a water company or solar panels. Sometimes you see something with like food recycling, and like absolutely throw that in your assignment because it is sustainable as a business. But this place shows like popcorn, coffee, tea, brewing. A lot of places you'll see wine or beer, vodka. It's still, but this is another good thing to look for, is seeing just a list of like where are they getting things from. Just a huge list of this is where they're getting it.
Awesome, thank you. That is like another perfect example. And it can vary. So all of these will be acceptable for your research for this week. Okay, I'm gonna pull up the assignment because you'll note that at the end, we want you to evaluate what percentage you think actually is farm to table, local, okay? And just like we talked about, flour, onion, sugar, salt. Remember, that makes up a big component of products, right? Your pantry staples. That's how you make food, right? To bulk things up. So, here we go. Oh, there we go. All right, assignment. So here we go. Week 1, right? So city, state, region in the US, that's where you want to go, your first start. You can do a Google search, right? You might get some false, results when you put farm to table, right? You think, we had another student, much like you, Don, I love that you said that, because we had another student a couple blocks back, and she called, and basically the restaurant was like, well, yeah, we're not that anymore. So she called me confused. She's like, what? So, I mean, this is what's happening, you guys. There are restaurants are saying they're farm to table because it is a marketing ploy. You can pull people in. It is not, they are not always going to be authentically, what we might think of farm to table. And then that really becomes your own personal evaluation of, is it everything? Is it some things? Is it a lot of things, right? So you have to evaluate that for yourself, right? They're using a term that is not defined. So check and review their menu. Like we said, you're gonna see them highlight a farm or their dairy company because it is about representing other local establishments. Hey, we're getting our farm from here. You know that farm that's up the road? Yeah, that's where we get our chicken from. That's where I'm getting my greens from. Yeah, they're the freshest. They're the freshest in town. You want to come eat this, right? Wouldn't you want to, right? I mean, that's what I'm saying, right? Yeah, I want to eat what's local. I want to eat what's being grown a few farms away and stayed over, some local chicken, some local good stuff, right? Okay, so check that out. You're gonna see them highlighting their farms, okay? And then they might provide links to those farms as well. You can always check them out. Then buzzwords. Buzzwords are, what do we think? What do we think of buzzword? Something that grabs your attention, right? Might be for farm to table. Anybody?
Garden. I worked at a restaurant where their slogan was garden to fork.
Garden to fork. Okay, awesome. Yeah, garden. What other types of words might elicit that feeling of, oh, this is a farm to table? What do you guys think?
Harvested.
Fresh.
On-site garden.
On-site garden, yeah.
I worked in a couple of places where we had our own on-site garden. You went out there and bought or got the stuff out per order.
Wow.
Instead of getting it out in bulk. That way it was the freshest as you plated it and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, that is definitely admirable to be. I mean, that would be insane to be getting that, right? But that's what it takes. So Other words might be organic, grass-fed, pasture-raised, remember, sustainable, eco-friendly, locally owned, locally sourced. All these words that kind of get you organic, whatever these are that are associated with being fresh, local, seasonal, changing, daily changing menu. All of these things that might lend you toward thinking, oh, this restaurant's a little bit different than the regular old one that has the standard menu all the time, never changing, right? So some of them may have more or less sustainable practices than they are, and that's okay. Now answer the rest of these questions. Name and location. We need a website, all right? If they don't have a website, man, you better help them with their marketing skills. Take a photo of that place and get it going, all right? Top 5, these buzzwords that made you think, hey, this might actually be it, okay? This might be a farm-to-table restaurant. If they're using any sustainable practices, what are they doing? Oftentimes you'll see a highlight on the chef. If you can't do a quick research, maybe you'll see, oh, this chef was working there before, he did this, he had a passion for X, Y, and Z since a childhood, growing up on a farm, a little history of he or her, the past, how she got there, or why she wants to be a part of a farm-to-table sustainable movement, what that means to them, okay? You'll also see in the readings that there is these ones, that other one about what it means to the chef, right? What is a farm-to-table restaurant? It means different things for different chefs, okay? So get that if you can. 3 different things from the buzzword, right? That makes it a farm-to-table restaurant. How and where they source their products, right? This is just reaffirming the above. Providing the links to the bakeries, suppliers, et cetera, if they use multiple farms, list those. Then think about this, what we were talking about. Oil, salt, sugar, flour, spices. Those are most likely not coming from there. So using that, okay, looking at everything, right? Meat, fish, dairy, grains, looking at that component, and then what it takes to get those products to the table as a composed dish and meal and item. What percentage of their menu do you think meets that farm-to-table criteria? So there is nothing wrong. You could say 100%. If you give reasoning that makes sense, that it's 90%, you believe it's 90% locally sourced, go for it. Give us the reasoning behind it. Maybe you think it's 30%. And honestly, I would say even 30% is a good start to the movement, right? That is contributing in 30% of local income. So just give us reasoning on why. The ingredients. So this might make you do a little bit of external thinking, right? Think about your location. Think about what's growing there. Think about what grows in your area. What is seasonal in your area? Start to think about this. I highly suggest going to, I'll send the link out. Search your local area, right? It is a website that has a link to, you can put in your location and you can find out what's growing seasonally there. Okay? So start to get familiar with your own environment. What's growing in your state? I think Gabriel was talking about, he's in Ohio, right? So what's growing in Ohio right now? What's coming up down south? When are the cherries coming in? Where do cherries grow? Okay, corn, watermelon, what's up? Where is it growing? What's at your local markets? Okay, so we really just basically need to get all the wheels churning. Okay, Chef, did you have any comments or thing?
No, just one small thing on the buzzwords. Just remember that you're really looking for things that say it's farm to table to you. So if you see vegetarian, that doesn't necessarily mean it's farm to table. You could have a full vegetarian diet and just eat processed foods, or gluten-free, things like that. Some people are allergic to gluten, of course, but a lot of times it's a dietary choice. So we're looking for really things that just say, it doesn't have to be one word. If it's 2 words, house smoked, for an example, perfect buzzword. It is technically 2 words, but that they're smoking things in-house. That's a preservation technique. Canned. Anything that says farm to table. That's all I got.
Awesome. No, you're totally right. Like in-house freshly made bread. Do we think that means they're more likely farm to table or not? Or do we think, I don't know. Some places are going to make their bread in-house. Why do they do that? If they're not because they're sourcing locally. Why? Does anybody know why? Why would you make bread in-house?
We do it because it's cheaper.
Boom, exactly. So this is how places will also, you could get tricked by that one. That's a great one to get tricked by. You're like, oh man, they make their bread, which is wonderful. Freshly made bread is fantastic. But don't necessarily think that, some places, oh, is that, right? So it's all about your own personal interpretation as well of meanings, right?
Is it considered like freshly made bread whenever they buy the dough?
If you're purchasing dough and then baking the dough, pre-made dough in-house?
Yes. Because they will call it that.
That's technically
but it's not
freshly
that.
made, baked. It's freshly baked, technically. So, yeah. So what you'll find out, there are a lot of loopholes in how things are stated, okay? Get ready to have your mind think about what the heck is going on. What is natural? What does natural mean? Okay? Aren't we all natural? Aren't we all organic? Isn't every vegetable and animal out there organic, right? So you can take explanations for anything very loosely, is all I'm going to say. There are a lot of different meanings behind all of these words. So just do a little research and you'll find something. Jeff.
You get 2 hands up.
Oh, yeah. John.
Yes. Thinking outside the box, there are supermarkets, fresh market, those type of places that actually have farm-to-table products. Can we use those? Because sometimes they may serve food. Some of them will have a menu, some of them will serve food, but they also sell farm-to-table products. Can we use that in the assignment as well?
You mean like a restaurant, or you're talking about a grocery store? Because we're really looking for only restaurants. Not like if a restaurant's in a grocery store and they use products that are made locally. Like
Wegmans. Wegmans has its own restaurants and it has its own stuff inside of it, but they use farm-to-table products. So
if you
that's out of the question.
Back up to what their menu would look like and what you think they're sourcing from, I'm okay with that if you want to go that route, because if they're technically a restaurant or cafe, they would have their cafe name and what they're sourcing, and if it was a daily changing menu, then you would have to evaluate like what percentage of that compared to full-on production would they be?
Right. Got it. No worries. It was just thinking outside the box.
No, I like that. I like that. But you're right. That's technically utilizing a farm-to-table
concept.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gabriel.
Mine was more of a comment, but over summer break, I did go to Charleston.
Oh.
And I ate at a couple of Mike Lotto's restaurants. He's got one called The Ordinary.
Okay.
That's like fresh seafood, like they're alive either that morning or the day before. And
awesome.
And that was pretty expensive.
I can imagine. You're touching on that local concept, right? That is locally sourced, right? Right. And then it's going from the sea to the table. You find a place that's focusing on sea to table. Chef Greg, I think we're both okay with that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Super good.
We also sea to table. Yeah. That's a whole other avenue of when we talk about fish. Mandy, what's up?
The place that I'm looking at, they're friends of a friend, and they're less than an hour away. But so far, the research I've done in the last couple hours before class was they're doing kind of and the only other place I've ever seen it is in like Louisiana or down on the coast, where these restaurants, they're stores, and they have almost the deli front with the fresh seafood, and then they cook in the back, and you can buy the seafood or you can buy in the back they're doing, they're growing things, they're processing things, they're baking things, they're doing that whole, and I find it very admirable. I can't wait to go see this place. I'm very excited. But,
yeah. What's the name of the restaurant?
Two Clay Birds.
Two Clay Birds, and it's in New
Two
Orleans?
Clay Birds in Hyco, Texas.
In Hyco, Texas. Oh, okay. Yeah. So interesting. I love that you found a place. I hope that you do get to go see it and check it out.
They've been open a couple of years, even before I started school. My best friend is friends with them, and yeah, so I'm very excited. My question was that aspect, the more like storefront aspect, not the restaurant, but that storefront aspect. Is that something that I need to just sort of shun to the side and focus on their restaurant farm to table-ness, or can I incorporate that part?
If they're growing their products, then that's part of how they're sourcing sustainably, right? So that alone contributes to what they're doing. I don't know if that
can be part of my assignment is bringing that the things that they bake and process for their store. Can I bring that in as part of my assignment, or do I need to just ignore that?
No, I mean, you should be talking about the entire establishment. That in that case, it sounds like it's a very, if it's, I'd like to look and see if it's a store with a restaurant attached, or is it a restaurant that happens to be a store, right? So I'll just take a look at it. If anybody has any questions about it, but I mean, it sounds like if they're growing their own vegetables and sourcing locally, no matter what, you've got the start of that. But if anybody has any questions about what would be acceptable or not, just shoot me a text, and I can, or a link, a message, and I can take a quick look at the website and say, yeah, you're heading in the right direction, or no, let's shift our site. Let's focus on something else. If you're confused about anything, seriously, just no problem checking stuff out. But yeah.
How locally is local? Because Texas is really big, and so for instance,
in the assignment it says that you can source regionally, right? If you're talking about like where you're looking for your restaurant, regionally is okay. Locally, again, this goes back to what you're going to find out after reading these things. What does local? There is no full regulation on what does local mean. I would go with that if it's regionally sourced, that's quite good, okay? If you're starting to look like you're in Miami and you're getting stuff from California, that's not regionally sourced. We're talking about total opposite sides of the country, right? So that would be more farm to table in your region, right? Because the whole idea of collecting farm to table, right, guys, is about reducing the transportation time from from harvest to the table, because that is what is making farm to table something special, because it's fresh, it's cutting down on emissions, it's supporting locally. These are the pillars of what sustainability and farm to table restaurants are based on. It's about sustainability, right? We can't constantly, if we think we're going to keep surviving, we're shipping lemons and tomatoes over from China like it's nobody's business, right? Okay, so how sustainable is that? Somebody said before, how many hands does that pass through? What's the traceability? What's going on? At what price does that come with? Sacrificing flavor, integrity, emissions, right? The release of methane gas to get stuff to here. So think about local on those terms, okay? Just don't get hung up on some technicality of what local. Think about it. If you give your own definition of what you think it means, do some research, and you guys will be fine. All right? Cool. All right. So questions, please reach out and have fun. Find a cool restaurant that's in your area. Go check it out. All right. Jeff, anything else?
Looks like Lisa's got her hand up, and other than that, just thank you everybody for a good talk.
Yeah. Lisa.
Hi, yes. I'm wondering, the restaurant that we're going to choose this week, is that going to be the same restaurant we're going to use throughout the whole class?
Nope.
Nope.
You will this is just a one and done thing. Don't worry. You just got to research it. I think it'll help to get exploring what a restaurant and farm to table means. That's it. You could, if you by chance it is in your region, you could perhaps use them possibly in week 3 when there's an option of interviewing somebody in the local food, farm to table movement, being a farmer, a beekeeper, etc., or doing an alternative option B. So if it was a local restaurant and you went in and were able to talk to the chef or somebody there, you could potentially use that for your week 3 assignment. If you want to look ahead, check out week 3. It's actually an important thing to take note of. Week 3, start looking in your local area to either meet a beekeeper, a vintner, a farmer, et cetera, to talk to learn a little bit about the craft of brewery, brew making, distilling, all these things. But no, otherwise, Lisa, just week 1.
Okay, so now, are we supposed to be doing a slideshow?
You have 2 options. You can either present, there are examples on the class page. Check those examples out. There's either a slideshow option or a document. Your pick, as long as you're answering these questions, providing the required information, your choice.
Okay, so you don't have to do a slideshow, but it just for this one assignment, I could do a slideshow for my answers that you're asking for with the assignment questions.
Yeah, you can do one or the other, either a document or a slideshow. It's your choice. And you're good to go. Whatever you want to do is okay, as long as all of the answers and questions are met.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All righty, class. Well, if you have questions, comments, concerns, reach out. Get ready to do some reading, and we'll catch you next week. Sayonara.
Bye, buddy.